Overcoming historical mistrust between Japan and South Korea. Welcome to VOA Asia Weekly. I'm Chris Casquet in Washington. That story is coming up, but first making headlines. Another delegation of U.S. Congress members visited Taiwan's parliament Monday in a further sign of support among American lawmakers. China responded with more military exercises. The United States military said on Tuesday that it had carried out a test of a Minuteman III intercontinental ballistic missile. The test was delayed to avoid escalating tensions with Beijing during China's show of force near Taiwan earlier this month. The U.S. and Taiwan agreed to start trade talks under a new initiative, saying they want agreements with economically meaningful outcomes. The talks are expected to take place early this fall. A court in military ruled Myanmar convicted ousted leader Aung San Suu Kyi on more corruption charges. She was sentenced to an additional 6 years in prison in a closed-door ruling in which her lawyers were forbidden by a gag order from revealing information about the proceedings. Bangladesh's foreign minister told the visiting UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet, that there are no cases of enforced disappearances or extrajudicial killings in the country. Rights activists and families of victims said the government's claim was completely untrue. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol offered audacious economic assistance to North Korea if it starts to take actions to abandon its nuclear weapons program. Yoon said if North Korea genuinely commits to a process of denuclearization, the South will respond with huge economic rewards in phases. Yoon's proposal wasn't meaningfully different from previous South Korean offers that North Korea has already rejected. 2 days later, however, North Korea launched 2 cruise missiles off the West Coast, the first missile launch from Pyongyang in 2 months, sparking fears of a potential nuclear missile test. South Korea's president also said he wants closer relations with Japan to face common threats in the region. As Henry Ridgewell reports for VOA, the change of approach has been welcomed in Japan, but overcoming historical mistrust may prove difficult.
Marking the 77th anniversary Monday of his country's liberation from Japanese rule and the end of World War II, South Korea's president called for better relations with Japan.
이제 세계 시민의 자유를 위협하는 도전에 맞서
Today,
함께
Japan is
힘을
our
합쳐
partner
나아가야
as we
하는
face common
이웃입니다.
threats that challenge the freedom of
한일
global
관계가
citizens. When
보편적 가치를
Korea-Japan
기반으로
relations move towards a common
양국의
future,
미래와
and when the mission of our
시대적
times align,
사명을 향해
based on our
나아갈 때
shared universal values,
과거사
it will
문제도
also help us
제대로
solve the
해결될 수
historical problems.
있습니다.
Those historical problems have long weighed on relations between Seoul and Tokyo. The two countries dispute the ownership of islands in the Sea of Japan. South Korea wants greater atonement from Japan for its conduct during colonial rule, including the use of forced sex slaves known as comfort women during World War II. Speaking on the anniversary of his country's surrender in 1945, Japan's Prime Minister said he would uphold Japan's constitutional pledge to never again repeat the horrors of war.
未だ争いが絶えることのない世界にあって
In a world where conflicts are still unabated, Japan, under the banner of proactive pacifism, will do its utmost to work together with the international community to resolve the various challenges facing the world.
課題の解決に全力で取り組んでまいります。
Alongside US forces seen here conducting military drills, Japan and South Korea took part in missile intercept exercises off Hawaii earlier this month. Japan and South Korea see common threats in the region, but with different perspectives.
The question is, when it comes to China, South Korea doesn't feel as we do. See, we are facing a land power threat from the continent to the waters in our part of the world.
Despite the common threats, analysts say it will be difficult for South Korea and Japan to overcome decades of mistrust. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, Tokyo.
Visit our website, voanews.com, for the most up-to-date news. You're watching VOA Asia Weekly. Finally, teams of Indonesians formed human ladders to reach prizes hanging from the top of slippery trees in an annual competition celebrating the country's Independence Day. The game is called Panjat Pinang, which means climbing palm trees. Thanks for watching VOA Asia Weekly. Until next week.